Yo, what's up? It's Jimmy on from Glitchy Thumbs. Today, we're working on character 1.2, the car guy inside of Buildbox. I created this character using Procreate and amongst many other characters that I created. If you want to see that video, there should be a link down below. This is character 1.2. I'm going to build a mechanic around it so we can get an idea of what this character would look like inside of a game. We're going to be using Buildbox. Let's get to the video. I open up Buildbox. I go to the template section because there's a template that I want to use for this mechanic just to see if it will work. That's a space Buggy template. I drag in our FBX of the mesh we created. This mechanic already has a car and wheels that matches character 1.2. I wanted to swap it out to see what it would look like. I drag in the wheels. Looks like I had a rear wheel and a front wheel. I could have just used one wheel and just duplicated them. These are old videos, so most likely I didn't think of it at the time. I was trying to export the wheel again because they're not supposed to be the same size. In our model, I had a small wheel and a bigger wheel. For some reason, when I was exporting it, I was still having the same issue as I was importing it into Buildbox. Not sure what the issue was. I decided to just skip past and just continue with the mechanic because that's what we're supposed to be focusing on. Switching out the car model with our mesh. I click into character 1.2, copy the keyframe animation and subscene, paste it into the car object so we can switch out the car object with our mesh, connect node, delete body node because we don't need that. We successfully swapped out the body, but the rotation is incorrect. What we need to do is change it to 90 degrees. If you do it in the scene, the entire body rotates with the wheels, which is what we don't want. We have to actually do it in the subscene. I click subscene, rotate it 90 degrees. It looks like the mesh didn't rotate. It's because I rotated our original mesh, but not the one in the car object. That's the reason here. In the car object, I click the subscene, rotate it 90 degrees. Now this looks correct. I do the same thing for the wheel. I clicked into the rear wheel, copied that subscene, pasted it into the wheel object, connected the node to enable, remove the previous 3D model. You can see the wheels were swapped successfully, but now they're rotated in the incorrect direction. We need to fix that. I clicked into the subscene, rotated it 90 degrees. This looks correct. Now we need to align it to match our reference for character 1.2. Aligning the wheels was a little bit tedious because I didn't have any solution for this other than just manually moving the wheels one by one. Normally I have to think on the fly. Sometimes I don't think of the best solution until later on. I just go with the flow and do what's best at the moment. This looks exactly like the reference. I'm happy with that. I removed the FBX that we dragged in because we don't need them anymore. As I was zooming into the screen, I'm not sure what happened. Screen went black and I was thinking, oh no, hopefully all my hard work didn't get corrupted. So I was trying to click around, figure this out. The thing I thought of was, let's just save this file, call it character 1.2, space Buggy. Just make sure we have a saved BB and just reopen it. Maybe that would fix the problem. It looks like it did. At least we didn't lose all of that work. I don't think I saved. Luckily, I was able to save the file. We hit play. I didn't even test it out. It looks like it works, but I can't see the character because this mechanic is faced from the back. You can only see the back of the mesh. What we need to do is change the view. We could do that by clicking the camera. There was definitely something off with this save file. I move the camera around with the right click button on my mouse. You move up and down with the middle mouse button. I have a MX Master 3. This is pretty useful. I like it a lot. It makes my life easier. I rotate it to the side. I want to see the car guy's nice face with his huge grin. I remove that wall because it's blocking the view. I zoom in with the middle mouse button and trying to get a view that I like from the side. This way we can see the character but also test out the mechanic. I hit play, but I don't see the character. I restart it. I think there was something wrong with this save file. So the next best thing was to just export the car BB asset. That way we can just drag it into the space Buggy template again. I saved this file as character 1.2. This first file is just off. That's the solution. Just to open a new file. I did that. Went to more templates, space Buggy again, dragged in our BB asset because this contains all the things that we worked on. And I deleted the car object. We don't need that. I actually undid this because my thought process was maybe I should test the car object first with our mesh. I copied the keyframe animation and subscene from our car object and connected those nodes, deleted the body. Since we already rotated the mesh in our subscene, we don't need to do it again. I just tested it this way first, just to make sure before we make any other changes. So that's actually a tip to just do one thing at a time and then test it first. If everything goes well, then you move on to the next task, which I didn't do in the previous file. So now there's a whole bunch of issues in that file. file. We didn't even get to really test the mechanic. I'm testing the mechanic, just the mesh change. It looks like it's working correctly. I delete the car object that we don't need. Hit play. Everything seems to be correct. Character 1.2 hits the red ball, which is the enemy, which causes a explosion and the wheels fly all over the place, which is what we want. Now I drag in the wheel because changing the wheel shouldn't cause any issues at the moment. I copy the subscene from the FBX, paste it into the wheel object, remove the 3D model. We have to rotate it again in the subscene by 90 degrees. This time, since I've already adjusted the wheels in the previous file, I figured it'd be a better solution just to select all the wheels. Before we do that, don't forget to save. I didn't even save this BB doc just yet. I just replaced previous file to make it easier. Since all the wheels are selected, I just need to scale it down, move it into place to match our reference. And that's a better solution than how I previously solved it by doing it one by one, which took a lot of time. That wasn't a very good use of time, but that's how you learn. You pretty much do something and then observe and then analyze, try to cut down the time you're spending, just improve your own process, which I was doing here. I definitely spent a lot of time in this project aligning the wheels. I don't want to say it's a bummer. I could have spent a lot of that time testing the mechanic. Normally when you get on a problem like this, it really kills the momentum and the motivation to continue. You just got to plow through sometimes. I saved the project. I removed this wall that we did in the previous file because it's going to block the view. Look at that grin on his face. I did a pretty good job on that, even though it was a draft idea for the character. It's always a good idea to prototype your characters or even the game mechanic or even the idea you had in your sketchbook or notes. It's because when we initially have an idea, we get super excited about it and we really want to build it. But then when it comes down to actually building it, the motivation starts really high and it starts to decline. You realize, oh, maybe I didn't really want to work on this. Sometimes that happens with specific characters. You'll see that throughout different videos that I'll create. It's just good to prototype things early on. Don't spend too much time on trying to make everything perfect. Like the grin on character 1.2, it looks great to me. I get the idea across. We're starting on the mechanic, which is going to take its time. I don't even know if I will continue to work on this game until I get some sort of mechanic or prototype to play with. That's usually the case with all of our ideas. Don't spend too much time being a perfectionist. Just get the idea, some sort of basic mechanic for you to play with, and decide on that. Maybe you just wanted to see whether or not this was a good idea to even expand upon. You can always save it and come back to it at a later. Maybe you'll have another character that just sparks way better ideas or sparks more motivation in your game dev journey. That's very important. You might notice there's an error. It says body model is null. That's going to be within the controls of this template. Normally I just comment the line of code out. It's going to be the line right there, body model. I definitely should brush up on my JavaScript. I mean, I understand the logic, but writing the code is something I haven't approved upon. I'm just more of a visual and experienced type of person, but that's why I stick towards art and game design much more. Other aspects that I'm also really good in. Coding is actually not my strong suit. I can do it, but it's going to take me a lot of time. There's just so many things to actually think about in making a game. Back to the mechanic, I adjust the view by changing the camera. We're going to get that side view again to get a nice side scroller type mechanic going on so we can see that awesome grin that I created for character 1.2. We hit play just to see how this view looks like. I still can't see character in our view. I zoom out a little bit. I forgot to change the walls on the extra scene. I've already noticed another issue that I didn't even take account of is the wheels. They're rotating in a weird way. Let's just remove these walls and then test it again so that we can see the issue. You can see the wheels are rotating incorrectly. Well, they're rotating, but it's not the way we want it. We wanted to just swap out the wheels with our wheel. Now it looks funky. That's something I should have accounted for prior to making more progress in this mechanic. That's okay. Everything is trial and error. At least it's coming along much better than the first try. The second try isn't perfect. There's going to be flaws. It looks like it's working. The mechanic feels good. I get the idea. We just need to fix the visuals. I actually reopened the space buggy template again just so we can export the wheel asset named default wheel so we know this was the original wheel. Open up our save file, drop in the default wheel, copy 3D model node, paste it back in, reconnect that just to see if the spinning issue will show up again. It looks correct with these wheels other than the one on the side. For most of it, it stays in place because we want the wheels to just stay in place and then the characters bouncing up and down. I probably have to delete the subscene of our wheel. That's probably what's throwing it off. Move these back into place where the small wheels are in front. Check the set physics. Now at this point, I was thinking we didn't really need the FBX for our wheel because there's no animation. We could have just exported it as an OBJ. That's what the original file was. So it makes sense to actually just export our wheel in OBJ as well. I changed the Z forward. I forgot the actual settings, so I changed it back to negative Z forward. I selected selection only so that it only export the wheel in OBJ. Otherwise, it'll export everything. We don't want that in our Blender file. Name it wheel.obj. Click export. This time I decided to start with a blank template. Just drag in our body mesh, bring the cube down, change the outline from white to black, uncheck receive shadow, bring the incandescent from 0 to 1. I kind of like the brighter solid color on character 1.2. Looks a little bit more cartoony. Checked looped. Click the subscene, rotate it 90 degrees so it's facing the right side. We drop in our wheel OBJ. The model itself is going to be all white. Rotate it 90 degrees. To get our black color wheel, we need to drag our texture in. That looks correct. I'm scaling the wheel down first, starting with one wheel, aligning it into place. We're back to aligning the wheels, which we were doing the entire project. This time we're a little bit faster because we know what to do and what not to do. I duplicate the right wheel, bring it to the left side, align it in place. I select these two wheels, duplicate it again so we can get the front wheel, scale it down. The reason we want separate wheels is because if we wanted to have some sort of death animation where the wheels explode in random directions, it'll work better with separate wheel objects. One can fly to the left, one can fly forward, one can fly similar to the previous mechanic. Overall, that just looks more visually appealing for the player and also for testing. I got rid of the ground, changed it from grass to no ground. I clicked the cube, scale it because we're going to use this as our platform under character 1.2. Don't forget to save. I started a new blank template, call it character 1.2 new. That's the naming convention we're going to be using. Click the camera. We can rotate it aside to what we were doing earlier in the first two tries. Get a side view that we like. If you want to adjust the camera with values, you can just click it and then adjust the values on the side. If you want whole numbers, you should enter it here if that's easier to manage. It'd be good to save different camera views into maybe a spreadsheet so you have different camera views. This is actually a pretty good tip to create different camera views. Save those values into a spreadsheet or take a screenshot. That way you will always have a reference for different camera views for different game mechanics. This one would be a side scroller. Let's hit play. The wheels and the platform falls down because the cube and the wheels are set to dynamic. That's how those objects interact with gravity. I move the character to your character, set the physics from none to dynamic. We actually want our character to fall off the sides of the platform. For the cube, I set it to kinematic. Kinematic stays in place but interacts with dynamic object as well. I forget if static does that too. I need to test that. And leave the wheels, hit play again. The wheels fall down, platform stays in place, character is moving. The animation is correct on the character, but he's not moving. We're actually supposed to use the Space Buggy BB asset that we exported from the Space Buggy template because this one has all the functionality already included. I drag that into the scene. I copy and paste the nodes from that BB asset, switching back and forth to make sure I connect the nodes in the same order. I usually do this so that I understand the process a little bit in Buildbox. Sometimes when you're working in Buildbox, you don't know which nodes to connect. It's easier to reference something and practice. That's what I do occasionally. And I reopened the Space Buggy template again to see how the wheels were implemented. It has a receive node and a set physics. The receive node has the event name kill wheel. When the character is defeated, the set physics node sets the wheels to dynamic and has angular velocity. That's how all the wheels move in different directions. Back in our file, I open up the wheel, add a receive node. In the character, there's a send node. When the character defeated, it will send a signal to the wheel. Set the physics, change linear to none. The angular, we'll just give these some values. Make sure to press enter, otherwise the values doesn't save. For the wheels, I deleted the car object because we don't need it anymore. For the wheels, I dragged it into character 1.2. The wheels are a child of the character. It follows the movement of the character. Doesn't look correct. It's not functioning how it was in the Space Buggy. We do a little bit of troubleshooting. I rename our wheel without the .obj extension. I compare it to the default wheel. It looks like the capital W makes a difference, most likely in the code of the controls. That's what it was using. I changed the wheel from kinematic to none because the original wheels was set to none. Double check our set physics to dynamic. This should work, and it does. Character's moving, he's in place, the platform disappears. We don't have scene 1 to spawn more platforms. system so that it randomizes the scenes. There's an error since we're not using the body model anymore. We forgot to comment out the line of code with the body model in the controls. I duplicate the start scene, change that to 1 so that our platform will continuously spawn. Remove the character on scene 1, otherwise it's going to duplicate the character an infinite amount of times, and we don't want that. Hit play to test it again. The wheels are rotating incorrectly. He doesn't seem to be falling down. He is being pulled down by gravity, but very slow. Something's definitely keeping him in place. I undo again to get back the previous car object. I undo the scenes to see what happened. It was working earlier, now it's not. All the nodes seem to be correct. I copy over the receive node from the original wheel. There was one difference where there wasn't a event group. I changed the wheel from none to kinematic again. We're still seeing the rotation issue. I switched between kinematic, dynamic, and static. All have similar issues. The wheels have been the huge issue for me, most likely because I haven't spent much time with the physics of the wheels. I'll try to implement it similar to the previous mechanic, but it's not working as it should. For the body, I decide to change the rotation factor to 0. Not sure why I did that. There's no rotation factor for the wheels. I take out the wheels from character 1.2. I double check the code again. In the initial function, the wheel says capital W, so I thought that would have fixed the issue. I actually put a lowercase w. Now our wheels are correct. They don't rotate incorrectly like how we want it. We just want it to be in place. Now I drag back the wheels into the body mesh so that it follows the character. This is exactly what we wanted. It's not touching the floor because we didn't adjust our collision shapes yet. You can see the cube is touching the platform, but it's not around our character. We need to align that. These are the hitboxes for our character. Anything that touches the collision shape destroys the character or how it interacts with other objects in the game. You should make this as close as possible to the character. I hit play to test out the collision shape. He falls down, hits the platform. The wheels are hidden now because they're within the platform. That's not what we want. We just need to extend our collision shape to include the wheels as well. At least he's falling down from gravity now. I think it was due to the move node that we unchecked. This actually looks pretty funny. He's just hovering within the platform. I extend the collision shape to include the wheels because we want the bottom of the wheels to touch the ground so that it appears character 1.2 is riding on top of the platform. To preview again, falls down, hits the platform. I move off the platform and gravity pulls him down. We're getting pretty close. I felt like this platform is a little bit too tall, so I'm adjusting it to make it a little bit more shorter and then just scale it out. We wanted to do this before duplicating the start scene, otherwise we would have to scale it on the next scene as well. Change this to 1. This way it randomizes the scenes. Remove the character on scene 1, otherwise it will duplicate. Hit play, test out the mechanic. It feels pretty good. I actually want the camera to just follow the game path instead of the character. I felt like the movement is a little bit distracting. We just want the camera to follow the game path, and then we're just moving character 1.2 with our fingers if this was an actual game. I reconnect the move node so that the character moves forward. You can see that with the platforms moving. He's kind of in the air and falls down slowly. We had that issue earlier on. Now he's not falling off the sides anymore, or at least he's falling slowly, which is what we don't want. Most likely has to do with the move node. Turn off debug mode. This is actually a pretty cool effect. Character being pulled down slowly by gravity. This could possibly be used in a different game mechanic, maybe a space-like game with gravity. That's good that we're seeing this. Sometimes bugs happen within the game mechanic. Instead of seeing it as a bug, you can actually be creative with it and think of it as a feature that you can use within another game mechanic. That bug that we saw with him falling out of gravity can actually be used in a different game mechanic. Quite possibly I might use that with a different character. I just have to look through my character sets to find a character that suits the gravity falling down slowly. That could possibly be a new game mechanic. I want to fix the view. I go to camera, adjust this back because we want him to be close closer to the left end of the screen, more directly in the middle. That way the player has more visibility of the incoming obstacles if I do add that in. Right now we're just testing the game mechanic itself, moving side to side. I forget if I'm swiping left to right or up and down. Most likely it's left to right. It'd be better to shift it to where I can swipe up and down. We're not there yet in the game. This is just a prototype, but let's fix this gravity issue by going to the character, click the move node. You can see there's a 0 in the Y axis. The character can't actually fall down because it's set to 0, or at least it's falling down slowly. Now that there's no value there, it won't hold the character in place. That's exactly what we want him to fall off the sides and end up being defeated. So the goal is to stay on the path. That's the prototype. Super simple. Character 1.2, the car guy riding on the platform, possibly could be dodging obstacles. So you have to maneuver really well with your fingers, either left and right for the swipe or up and down. It looks pretty cool. I really liked how it turned out. Before we export this, we go to File and change the bundle ID to your bundle ID. You can also have the name on the device as well. Click Export. iOS is the one I'm using. Click Continue Export. Save the file with the same naming convention. Once it's finished exporting, click into the folder. Click the Xcode project that has the white thumbnail, which is the one in the middle. Once this opens, you click BB Player, go to Sign In Capabilities, find your team, plug in your device. Mine's already connected to my iPhone. Hit play. It'll take some time to process the game files, and then it will install on your phone. This is a screen recording that I took directly from my iPhone of character 1.2, the car guy. You move left to right, either by swiping up and down or swiping left and right. You dodge obstacles if there are any. You avoid falling off the platform or you'll get defeated. It's as simple as that. That's the prototype. Now you have something to play with and decide whether or not you want to expand on this idea. That concludes the video for character 1.2. I hope you guys learned a little bit about my process, which I'm still improving upon every day. Every character is going to be a little bit different. We're going to learn different things. So the way the character looks, it might be in a different environment, or it might spark another idea, similar to what happened with the move node that was causing the character to be pulled down slowly with gravity. Quite possibly you might see that space game that I talked about in the video. Yeah, see you in the next video for the next character in character set 1. If you like this video, please subscribe, the like button, all that good stuff. Appreciate it. See you in the next video. Peace out.